Hello, everyone. Today we have two amazing international medical graduates with us who will be guiding us about USMLE Step 3, how to prepare, what material they used. One of them is Dr. Areeba Minhaj. She's a 2021 graduate from Daw University, and she scored 263 in Step 3. The second uh, person is Dr. Osama Ijaz from Services Institute of Medical Sciences. He graduated in 2021 and he scored 258 in USMLE Step 3. The reason to make this video is that USMLE Step 3 is in some way it's a different exam, more practical, and in my personal opinion, having a good score in USMLE Step 3 and at least passing it before applying to residency does boost your chances of getting more interviews and getting matched. So I have invited these two phenomenal candidates, applicants who are also match applicants, to share their thoughts about it. And I'm really grateful to both of them because they are both in Pakistan right now. And it's, I think, pretty late in Pakistan, but they are still willing to contribute towards this cause. So without further ado, uh, I would start first with Dr. Minhaj. Dr. Minhaj, can you please briefly describe your journey so far?
So regarding step three, I think that it's very important that you take it right after step two, because most of the things that you that are asked in step three are basically from step two, rather than the CCS cases. After step two, I took a 2 month gap and then I started UL right away. I didn't know if I had to give step three or not, but I just started UL because I had to give it some time. So I was doing a job and I was doing a full-time job with calls and everything, and I was doing UL side by side. I think persistence is the key. You have to be persistent in doing the questions. So it took me, I think, 4 months on and off. It had breaks along the way because I was not really sure if I would get the visa or not. And sometimes, it's this uncertainty just, drains all the motivation to study. 4 to 5 months. And then when I went to US, 2 months of dedicated step three studying from UWorld and CCS cases, along with my observership and ERAS application. So, and then I took step three 2 days before the ERAS deadline.
Okay, wonderful, wonderful. Dr. Ijaz, can you also briefly summarize like this, and then we will go with the proper questions?
Yeah, sure. So I pretty much decided to take my step three even before I took my step two. And the reason was that I thought in my mind that as the math process is getting really competitive each year, so why not take all the checklist before going into the match? So that was my motivation to give my step three. And I started preparing for my step three, I guess, a couple of weeks after my step two, and I took it approximately 4 months after my step two. And I would second Dr. Minhaj on this one, that the closer you take your step three to your step two, the beneficial it would be, because a lot of things on step three would be pretty much similar to what you learn in step three. So the more far out you are from your step two, the more time you need to put to prepare or to review all those concepts again. And one other thing that I want to put in this discussion is that it's a very much underrated thing that I would suggest that you start focusing on your CCS cases pretty early in your preparation, because personally for me the CCS cases made a huge difference for me. So that's pretty much
All
what I
right.
want to
Thank you,
add.
Dr. Ijaz. We'll start with the questioning. I want to share one thing. So I want to make one thing very clear, that step 3 requires a US visa for international medical graduates, because you have to be in person in US to take that. And then it also requires more financial resources. And the third thing is time. So when we talk about the significance of step 3, we do acknowledge that people who do not have either three of the factors I described, they cannot take it. And it's not like it's mandatory. But when people ask mentors like me, what can we do to add something extra to our CV, then I have to tell them that this is something that can really boost your chances. So it's not that I am forcing people, no, you have to take it. It's not that. again, I'm not a program director, but even if I'm a program director, I would not differentiate people on the basis of step three. But you have to understand, because now competition has gone so far, that they are using each and everything to differentiate between the applicants. So my first question to both of you is, and Dr. Minhaj can go first, and then Dr. Ijaz, that you both have briefly described, but just to reiterate that after your step two CK, how much time did you take to prepare for step three? Dr. Minaj.
Okay, so I think that the biggest factor for me was that I did not have a visa. If I had a visa, I would have taken step three earlier. So my step two it was in November, and then my step three was in September. So it was quite some time. But I tried to, get in touch with you world earlier on, and I didn't take a very long break from studying. I was studying the whole time during my break. So this is something that I think helped me a lot.
If you did not have the visa issues, from in terms of the time needed to prepare, uh, how much time would you have taken?
I think like maximum three months. 2 months is more than enough.
Okay. And just to make sure that we also tell people that Dr. Minhaj had 276 on CK. So again, that also tells us that she really performed really well on the CK. And Dr. Ijaz, what about you? Ideal time from CK to step three?
So I would second Dr. Minhaj on this one because I was lucky enough that I didn't have that visa issue. I had it sorted a couple of years ago. So even before I gave my step two, I knew that I would give step three soon after my step two. So I started preparing for my step two around for my step three around 2 weeks after my CK. That was in April of this year, and then I took my exam in August. So it took me around 4 months. Out of that, I would say that the last month was the most dedicated one, and the previous 3 months was like that. I was studying around 3 to 4 hours every day. So for an ideal timeline, if you are taking really close to your step two, would be no more than 3 or 4 months, I would say.
Wonderful. Dr. Ijaz, while you're here, okay, so the next question I would ask you first. What study material did you use, and which of them you found really helpful? That includes the textbooks, if you used any, and the question banks.
All right, so the gold standard question bank, I would say for step three is again the U word. All right, so start with U word. All right, so if you are taking your step three really close to your step two, then you have those concepts from step two that will help you with the questions of your step three. But if you are far out from your step two, then I would recommend that you also kind of review your notes or your flashcards that you made for your step two, because honestly 60 to 70% of the concepts that you see on step two, you would see them on step three. All right, so if you are far away and if you have time, you can go back and review those flashcards and your personal notes too. Otherwise, if you are really close to your step two, then you can use your just your U word. All right, and another thing there is that for CCS cases, start doing cases from the ccscases.com. Start it early in your preparation. People usually delay it to the very last, that we will do it in the time that we will have between our day one and day two. Don't do that. They are a huge difference. They will make a huge difference for you on the marks. All right, because if you get the scheme of them, all right, if you have a good idea, you have practiced them enough, then you won't make any mistake on them, and they'll boost your score a lot. So that I would recommend, that start doing your CCS cases as early as possible in your preparation. Develop a scheme for yourself that how you want to approach them. Practice that enough so that on the exam day you don't have to waste time thinking about what test do I have to order. You just have a preemptive scheme in your mind that you can quickly type, because the time is really short in those cases. And also for biostats, start doing biostats in as early as possible in your preparation too, because your day one is around 25 to 30% biostats. All right, so that will make a huge difference for you too. I watched Randy Neal videos. They're on the YouTube, so you can watch them for the biostats. Other than that, use UWorld, you use Emboss, use any question you can find honestly too for your biostats, because you will see a lot of them, and they'll create a huge difference for you. So that's pretty much it.
Did you read any textbook like Master the Boards or Kaplan, First Aid?
Uh, no, so I didn't use any textbook for my step three because I told you I was really close to my step two. So I remembered a lot of stuff from my step two, so I didn't need the field to review all of them again.
Dr. Minhaj, same question.
So I think the most important, again, as Dr. Ijaz said, is UWorld, and I did 100% UWorld. I even did a second pass because I felt that the UWorld that I did first was I didn't really get the hang of it, and I wasn't really comfortable, and I didn't get the knowledge that I should have gotten. So I did a second pass too in the last 2 months, and then I did the incorrect, and then I did my marked too. Other than that, I think that biostats is really, really important. And I did AMBOSS for biostats. I watched Randy Neal videos, and I did the first aid chapter for biostats, pharmacology, and microbiology. Because there was a quite some time between my step 2 and 3, so I think I needed that revision at that time. Regarding CCS cases, I second Dr. Ijaz. I think people undermine this, but it's from my experience and from the experience of my friends. The most score that people get is because of getting the CCS cases right. I don't think
Good
that
point.
questions or MCQs vary as much as the cases do. If you get your cases right, you easily get a very good score, regardless of how how many MCQs you get wrong. And this is, I think, my personal experience and something that everybody around me has experienced too. So CCS cases are very important. When I was approaching CCS cases, I watched few YouTube videos on how to approach the CCS cases. Once you get the hang of the cases, then it becomes very easy. It's just the basic things that we already know. We just have to know how to implement it. And I think because I was clinically active, I kind of knew how to do the initial assessment and plan, and I knew that what was important for a patient at that time. So that really helped me a lot. Other than that, I think I have Amber's subscription, so I just read a lot of Amber's articles here and there whenever I'm stuck in anything, and that's pretty. And Divine Intervention podcast, yeah. Dr. Osama, I think, told me a few podcasts to do before the exam, so I did those. Yeah.
That's very important to know. Uh, the next question is from you, Dr. Minhaj. Did you use any self-assessment, NBME or UWSA exams? And then if you did use, how accurate they were in predicting your scores? And what would you recommend that when exactly, like month before, 2 months before, people should take those exams?
So I guess I did my self-assessment exams. Actually, at the end, the last month, I was really traveling between cities and I couldn't really, plan out everything. So I took my UWSA 1 just 10 days before my exam, and I took my UWSA 2 just like 3 to 4 days before my exam. So my UWSA 1 was in 230s and my UWSA 2 was 248. UWSAs are known to underpredict your scores by a margin of 15 to 20 minimum. Like this is
All
something
right.
that
So
all of
there.
my colleagues and
Okay.
friends, yeah, said to me. Other
Okay.
than that, free 120 is very, very important. It has free 139, I think it's called, for step 3. It's very important. It's very high yield. And the cases that they have, everybody should do it before their day 2, because the outline and everything that they give is very, very specific to the exam, and the whole thing, and the whole software is very close to what the exam tests.
Thank you. Dr. Jaz, same question.
Yeah, so I only took one self-assessment, and that was UWSA 1, and I took it around 2 weeks before the exam. Actually, I took it when I completed my preparation, and I took it to self-assess myself and then decide when I have to take my exam. And I scored 230 on that UWSA 1. So again, I'll second Dr. Minhaj on that. So UWSA are very under-predictive. For me, it was 28. So if you are say you have a target of 240 or 250, so if you are getting 230, 220 to 230, then you will be able to score that much on the actual exam. I didn't take UWSA 2 or free 120, so I cannot comment much on that. But just for the UWSA 1, I would say that it underpredicts around 20 to 25 marks easily.
Now that we're talking now, my question is for those people who are just wanting to make sure that they pass it. Do you have anything in your mind about the UWSA that if someone scores below that, I know it's hard to predict, they should delay their exam or consider delaying because they are at high risk of failing?
So a lot of
So
my juniors who asked me about their self-assessments, they had like a 200 plus, and I think, and all of them passed. So I think a 200 plus is what is very safe because it's an exam that you have to take, and it does not look good if you fail that exam because then the program directors might think that you'll fail the board exams too. So I think
Absolutely.
that, be safe rather than sorry,
Mhm.
and do it when you are comfortable and you're confident that you'll score well
Okay, so
or
you are saying
pass the test.
200 at UWSA, and what about you, Dr. Ijaz? What do you think?
yeah, so I would think the same that UWSA has a passing cutoff of around, I guess, 198. So at least pass the UWSA one. I have a friend who passed it by only 1 mark. He got 199, and in the real exam, he got 228. All right. So again, the UWSA is under predicts you. So if you are getting around 200, you can easily get 220 plus in on your real exam. So that's pretty much.
I agree. Even 7 years ago, when I took it, it was the same. So I think that my real exam score was 214, and I got around 200 something in the UWSA. So yeah, so I would agree that I think that trend still exists. So next question is that a lot of people say that there's a lot of questions from USMLE Step 1 in Step 3. So sometimes they would say go through the first aid of USMLE Step 1 or some other resources. How accurate is that, Dr. Ijaz?
Yes, it is quite accurate, especially for day one. So, of course, you will see a lot of biostats. All right. So,
Mhm,
it would be really helpful if you go through the biostats of your step one, like read
mhm.
through the first aid through the first aid. Other than that, you would see a little bit of microbiology here and there because at this point, when you have given your step one, like a couple of years ago, you might have even forgetting little details like which bacteria is gram positive, which is gram negative. You forget this stuff, all right, after all those years. So I would say that review your microbiology, and then you will see a lot of mechanism of actions of drug and side effects of drugs. So pharmacology, microbiology, and biostats, they are a real must-do thing before your day one. So that's the things from your step one that you'll see on your step three.
Dr. Minhaj.
So I think that for me, my day one did not really have a lot of step one questions. I did a lot of pharmacology and microbiology. I did the whole chapter from FA, but I didn't really find a lot apart from a few mechanism of actions, very few. I think one or two maybe. So biostats, obviously, it stands true for step one and step two and step three. Most of the biostats for my exam was related to step two rather than step one. So I think that, for me, my exam was very close to like step two rather than step one. The exam vignettes are very short and they're very straightforward. Unlike step two, that thing differs, but they're not like they don't want to confuse you. They just ask us one-liner questions. That's it.
Now we'll turn over to the exam day. Now, first question is that ideally, in your opinion, what should be how far should we schedule day one and day two? Whether they should be like just after each other, 1 day, 2 day gap, if you have ability to schedule the way you want. So what would you say, Dr. Minhaj, that what should be the
Mhm.
difference between day one and day two? How many days or weeks?
Okay. So when I was scheduling my exam, I did not have much choice because I had to leave
Mhm.
the state. So I only had a 1 day gap between my exams. So it worked for me because I was doing CCS cases beforehand
Mhm.
and I had done like 120 CCS cases before my day one. But I think that for me, I think it was fine and I got to do it and I didn't really got burned out. And a lot of people, they have a lot of gap and then they keep thinking about what to do. And I think that it was for me, it was better just to get done with it. So I think it worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say that around 2 to 3 day gap would be more than enough. I would second Dr. Minhaj and this one that if you start doing your CCS cases early in your preparation, then you won't need a lot of time between your day one and day two. And I have seen people who give a lot of gap between their day one and day two, and they get burned out in that time, and they don't know what to do, what more to study, because of course after your day one you get really fatigued. So the sooner you do your day two, the better. But I would say like 2 to 3 day gap would be perfect.
Yeah, I think that was what we did. That because if you have even choice and you have like a 6, 7 day gap, it would just increase the stress and anticipation, anxiety, and everything. So, second last question, Dr. Ijaz, any tips and tricks for the exam days itself, like the pace of questions, what to do and not to do for step three?
So my tips: do CCS cases early in your preparation, focus on biostats a lot, make sure you remember all the formulas, make sure you know all the hacks to do the biostat questions. All right. Try to do a lot of ethics too, because your day one would test you on ethics too. All right. For day two, you would see a lot of step two like questions. All right. So if you are far out from your step two, review your step two notes, review your step two flashcards. The CCS cases, the tips for that is that develop a scheme for yourself to do things. All right. Make sure that you include all the tests that you have to order in that scheme, practice that scheme over and over again, and over time it will enter into your subconscious, and you'll be ordering tests in the exam without wasting time, without thinking. And one thing that also helped me was I was doing rotations when I was preparing for step three. So I would go early in the day and sit with the resident when he was ordering tests. So that's kind of gave me a lot of idea that what test to order in the US healthcare system, because it's pretty much there are a lot of difference from our home country healthcare system. So that helped me a lot. And Divine podcast, all right, so there are a couple of them, so they help a lot, especially with day two, where they'll be asking about a lot of risk factors, a lot of prognostic factors, a lot of screening tests. So those podcasts help me.
So, Dr. Ijaz, and what about pacing the do you not have enough time or you run out of the time? How to overcome that?
On the question blocks, you usually don't run out of the time. All right, so start doing the questions that are not biostats first. All right, leave the biostats question for the last, because they'll eat a more time. But again, the questions about biostats, they are usually straightforward. If you know the formulas, if you know the hacks, you can pretty much do them in a couple of minutes. Also, they won't take up much time. The time problem that I faced was in CCS cases, especially the one which are 10-minute cases. So you have a very little time. So that's why I suggested that you start practicing it, develop that scheme in your subconscious, so that you don't have to waste time and you can get them done quickly.
Dr. Minhaj, same about how to pace the exam and any tips and tricks.
So I think that's very important that you sleep well before the exam day, and then just take it as an exam. I think sometimes we get over our nerves, and then we get overwhelmed. It's just an exam. If someone has taken step one and step two and they've passed, there's a high chance they're gonna pass step three too. So be confident and trust your scores and assessments, and trust your knowledge and whatever you worked so hard for up till now. So I think that when you approach the questions, there are many. I think that most of the people that told me that step three is a game of nerves, because there's so many questions that we have no clue of. There are so many questions that I remember that I was like, what even is that? I've never read about it, and I read a lot of books. So I was like, but I think that something that gave me confidence was that I know that I have never read it, and if this is something that then nobody would know that either. So I just thought like, it's okay. Just leave it as it is. Okay. So just best guess, I guess, and then just leave the questions that you're very confused about, because there's a very high chance that nobody else knows that. So, and even that's true even for biostats. Most of my biostats were the drug ads, and for those blogs, we had like 38 questions, so time was not a problem. And we have adequate time. The vignettes are very short, and the time could have been managed very easily. For CCS cases, I think that when you're doing your CCS cases, you have to be very vigilant and order the labs firsthand. So there's a whole tricks of how to do the CCS cases, and you have to get the hang of it. You have to know how to do the CCS cases, because these are the most important. I think that if anyone has to score good, just do the CCS cases really well. And for me, CCS cases time was also good, and all of my cases finished before time. So that was not a problem.
Wonderful. So last question for both of you. We'll start with Dr. Minhaj. That, in your opinion, you are going through the match, you are in contact with your friends, colleagues. How important is passing step 3A and B, passing it with a good score, is in terms of getting interviews, residency interviews?
So I got my step three scores after I had already applied. So I just updated a few programs. And when I sent my step three score update to one program, they actually offered me an interview. So I got an interview through that. Other than that, I think that almost everyone who's applying for this application cycle, everyone has a step three. This is something that's not even an option for IMGs. Everybody has step three these days. So it's if you're not having a step three, your application actually lacks something rather than others having an added benefit. So I think that that's something that's really different. I think IMGs have really put a lot of pressure on others, and I would say that because everybody's giving step three, and it just makes it compulsory for everyone else to give it.
That's a very, very good point, because again, that it's all about when they differentiate, how to tease out. I think this is very important point. Dr. Ijaz, what do you think?
That's what I think that since the pass step one, it has become pass fail. So if you have given your step three, then when your application comes in front of your PD, they have another score to look out. All right, because of course they have to differentiate one applicant from another. All right, so the holistic approach that they talk about, of course, it will include your step three score. All right, because no matter how much they say that we don't consider step three, if a score comes in front of a person, of course he'll appreciate it. So I would say that of course a good score on step three would help you. And in a couple of interviews, the faculty members, they talked about it, that you scored really good on it. So I would say that it's really helpful.
Absolutely. That's what I would summarize, that especially if someone, let's say, has a low step one score or even CK scores, passing step three would help, and even taking better scores would show a curve of improvement. The other thing is that, again, I would like to say I have literally seen people failing step three and getting fired from residency, because if you fail it more than two times in a lot of state, it's state dependent, they have to let you go. So program directors are scared in the back of their mind, irrespective of the fact that you have good scores or not. But at the end of the day, anyone, due to the stress of taking it during the residency, there could be scheduling issues and anyone can fail. So that is also very important. The last thing I would like to mention, some people, when we ask about putting questions, they were saying, I would just say a few things. So people feel that people from some candidates from some countries are getting very high scores, either CK step three. They have question banks. They whenever a candidate comes back, they will write questions. I would tell one thing, irrespective of whether they are doing it or not, you can take a really good score in step two CK and step three if you study hard, like these two bright individuals have. So it doesn't matter what others are doing. Let's focus on what you are doing and what you can do. Okay. There would always be people who have really great scores, and then there would always be people who cannot get good scores. Either way, you have to work hard to improve your application as a whole. Don't care what others are doing, just focus on yourself. Thanks a lot, Dr. Minhaj and Dr. Ijaz, for joining me. We would be uploading this, and I really appreciate your time.